So, thank you for coming on. Why don't you start off by telling everyone a little bit more of who you are and what you do?
Hi, Adam. Hi, everyone. And thank you to you and to Spring Up PR for having me on the KCEO Success Stories podcast. It's a genuine honor to be here sharing this space with so many, very passionate and dedicated individuals who make a difference in the lives of others. I know I've watched a number of the podcasts that you mentioned earlier, and it is a real testament to the kinds of individuals we have working in the care sector. There's so many dedicated people working together in unison to create something truly meaningful. So yeah, a bit about myself. I'm the CEO, as you say, of Oakland Care Group. My own journey to becoming the CEO has been anything but a straight line. In fact, it's probably been more of a winding path. So I've gone through recruitment and banking and even in car hire before finally settling in the world of social care nearly 15 years ago now. But each experience that I've had with its unique set of challenges and triumphs has shaped my perspective and equipped me with the valuable lessons along the way. And since joining social care, to add to my disparate experience before care, I've had some quite diverse experience since joining care, from residential and nursing care to providing services for young adults with profound and multiple learning disabilities, those requiring mental health and rehabilitation for those with acquired brain injuries. And along the way, I have had very profound influences, ones that have truly molded my leadership and style and continue to guide me today. I think that I've had some incredible mentors, those who I would say I have learned from their example.
And just for listeners, how long have you been working in the care sector now?
It's been 15 years since I started in care, and I had a bit of a baptism of fire. I started as the CEO of East Sussex, Brighton and Hove Crossroads Care.
Okay.
So that was a slight baptism of fire, but it meant that I had a deep dive and learned an awful lot about social care in a very short period of time. Because I'd learned so much and found the industry so passionate that I just have never left and would never leave. It's been the most enjoyable industry that I've been a part of. It's the most distinct and unique industry that I've been a part of.
That's fabulous. Great. Thank you, Kevin. So let's get straight in. Leading by example. What exactly do you mean by that?
So I think leading by example can potentially look like many different things. Something very simple. So instead of delegating something to a member of staff, do it yourself. And that means that the emergency buzzer goes off, I will go and attend and comfort the resident and ensure that they get the care and calming presence from me, not just always from the staff, so that they know that I will do that. When a family member comes in after losing a resident, their family member who lives with us, I will be there as a listening ear to acknowledge their grief. I think if you can demonstrate that you genuinely care for residents and for relatives, that you are the sort of person that will muck in on no matter what's going on, then I think the staff look to you as an inspiration anyway, but they'll also see that there is no airs and graces. There is no your job, my job. We're all about the residents. We're all about the relatives. And they can be good things as well as the not so good things. So the not so good things being, comforting somebody in their grief. But the good things are when, I'm at the parties dressed up and being there, being part of the party, dancing with a resident, dishing out some food to residents and, rolling my sleeves up, putting an apron on. I will make sure that I am there in the thick of it so that both residents and staff know that I will muck in. And what that means to the staff is, one, it makes me approachable. They know that they can come to me about anything really, but it also creates a real sense of culture. And I think leading by example, best thing that comes out of leading by example means that the staff actually feel part of something bigger. It's not them doing something and everybody else doing something else. It's everybody about the same thing. Everybody is about the residents, their comfort, their well-being, their sense of enjoyment and fulfillment and belonging. Providing the highest quality care is something we hear as a throwaway phrase from every provider, because we're all after the same thing. But it's how are we doing that? How are we making that happen? And I think if you've got energy for everything that you do with residents, it becomes infectious, and people start to feel that. They start to become part of that, and that does create the highest quality of care that we're trying to do.
And a question I have on the leading it by example, and those were great examples you gave. Well, how do you prioritize? Obviously, because you can't do everything, but how do you prioritize about what you do like to muck in with and get involved? And as you say, show an example. What do you choose not to? I just wonder if you have a kind of priorities as how you make that decision on what's it's involved, what's it worth mucking in with.
That's a really good question, actually, because that's a really important part of what we do when we're in leadership. It's time management, prioritization, and there's always more work than you've got time to do. So yes, absolutely. I think there's a couple of different things that come into the prioritization and the choices that that I make about what I get involved in. So let's say, for example, then there's a party, there's every 100th birthday I am at. If there's a special party, the summer parties, the Christmas parties, and those kinds, I am at. So they're priorities because they're very special events for either individuals or for the home as a whole. Other things that I see as a priority in leading, for example, that doesn't perhaps include residents in the same way is, let's say there's a very difficult conversation to be had. Initially, that difficult conversation, I will sit with the person that I want them to have that conversation. I'll talk them through it. I'll make sure that they feel resourced, that they feel that they're able to do it, and off they go, they'll do it. Then there's a follow-up conversation that needs to come out. If they're comfortable, I'll encourage them and support them to do that. Then finally, there's a final conversation that needs to happen as well, which is another difficult conversation. Then I will offer to support them. And I will attend that conversation with them accompanying me to see how I would conduct that, so that they can see that the way I would do it is with compassion, with professionalism, with gentleness, but firmly, and so on. And that can be conversations with stakeholders, residents, relatives. It doesn't matter, but it's about leading by example. So where they feel they can manage, that's what I want them to do. If they feel they'd like some support, I will go in and happily show them.
Yeah, I see. And I'm curious to know, Kevin, in terms of, let's say there is something that, you might feel you would like to get involved in, but a member of your team is actually, is actually better than you at doing it. Do you have those kind of scenarios where you say, well, on this occasion, I guess this kind of leads to the delegation and saying, okay, well, I trust my team to do a better job than I would at doing that. I'm just curious to know where you lie on that and how that comes to figure in deciding, what you would want to get involved in, and perhaps you say, look, 100%, I'm just leaving this to you.
Quite a few things, actually, because I've got some really good team members, and they're very, very good, and they know some of the topics far better than I do or I ever will. And so therefore I do delegate and leave that to them completely and say, you don't need me. And often they want to run things by me. I'm happy to do that because I can go back and just say, yeah, that's spot on. Thank you very much for doing that, And I get my managers as well to do things for the group, not just for their home, because they are they're very, very strong on the knowledge that's required. I get them to input to every single policy and procedure that we have, and they come up with the policies and procedures based on the information that we get from our external agency, but they personalize them to each of the homes and to the group, and I don't. I get final sign off, but they actually write them out.
Yeah, I see. And in your experience, in terms of this kind of leading by example, as you say, is there I guess there's a way to do it, an approach to do it in terms of encouraging others to follow what you are doing rather than perhaps rather than instructing them. I mean, my experience of speaking to successful care providers, it's not always like this, but having that I guess setting the tone of the vision of the culture, as we were talking about, and the values and the way of doing things, and then guiding your team team to follow that, and perhaps with their own little tweaks and personalization to it. Does that resonate at all with you? Does that sound true
or very
not?
much so. So I think, Oakland Care Group's a family-owned business and was founded originally by Stanley Stevens, and that was over 30 years ago. And it was as a way of giving back to the community to provide the type of care that he felt the area deserved. And that firmly remains the focus and the aim of the group. And it's something that we discuss all the time. We are very proud of the fact that the business is about delivering the best care for residents, that it's about having a retirement where you continue to live and experience life. What we don't want to be is God's waiting room. We want to be a place where people come and they feel as though they are learning something new, they're experiencing something new. So that ethos is something we talk about on a regular basis. And then with regards to sort of that leading by example, I can't express the sense of admiration for the extraordinary individuals who make up our teams, because they do such amazing things. My managers will go above and beyond all of the time. They'll do it for the staff, they'll do it for the residents, they'll do it for the relatives. So I know that they're leading by example, and how I've done, I say I won't take full ownership. They've got their own experiences historically, of course, but how I've encouraged that within Oakland Care Group since I've joined is to say to them all the time, I'll never ask you to do anything that I won't do myself. And if you've never done it before and you'd like to see me do it, I'll do it the first time, you do it the second.
I see.
And that means now that we've got staff members who, without a second thought, will come in on their day off because they care about the residents. And I'm awfully proud of them for that. But that's happened in the last 2.5 years. So that can't all be me. So that means that what I've done has been demonstrated by the managers, has been demonstrated by the deputies, has been demonstrated by the seniors. So it's something I feel they've taken to very, very well.
That's great. And tell me about mistakes. We all make them, mistakes by ourselves, our team. Some may be more serious than others. But how do you go about tackling, and let's say, let's use the theme we have about leading by example. How do you manage and think about mistakes when they happen?
So, so that's actually really important, because it's a horrible thing to do, right? Nobody likes, first of all, nobody likes to make a mistake. And second of all, nobody likes to admit when they've made a mistake. And nobody likes to go and say, yeah, I'm sorry, that was all me. So it's horrible, right? And I will do it every time, and I will hate it every time. I'm not going to pretend like I'm so great that I can happily.
I tell you what, I've given up hating about making when I make mistakes. I'm just like,
I'm not over it. I'm really not over it. I absolutely, I cannot stand it. When I make mistakes, I berate myself and I think I should have done better. And then I will say so I make mistakes, as we all do, I make mistakes, and I will go to my managers and I will say, or even the staff team, say, that was my mistake. I was wrong. Hang my head in shame. And I think that's leading by example, because I'm showing them that everybody can make mistakes. Nobody likes to say they've done wrong and admit to it and say they're sorry, but we all have a responsibility to do that. And what we do after that is we learn from that. We get better because of it, and we make improvements. We're never going to stop making mistakes, so we need to just make sure that when we do make mistakes, we reduce the chances of making the same mistake twice, and that we learn from the mistakes that we do make to make improvements in the future. And my team are very good at saying to me, yeah, hands up, boss, that was me. And I love that, because I don't have to then fish around for what's going on. We can have a very simple conversation to find out why, what happened, how do we stop it. There's no blame game. There's no point in a blame game. We're all trying to do our best. So I think we've got good at that, and I'm seeing that from the staff on the floor on a regular basis, where they'll get in touch with the manager and say, yeah, I did I did that. Sorry about that, and it's like, great, thank you for letting me know. Let's get that sorted.
So that's very interesting. Another curiosity question, which I'm always curious for care providers, is kind of the internal communications and this culture that we were talking about. And we focused today on leading by example. But what avenues and mechanisms do you have for internal team communications to communicate all the things we've been talking about today? How is it done? Is it done? Do you have regular in-person meetings, Zoom meetings? Do you have I mean, for our team, we have a Slack and message boards. I'm curious to know how you cultivate your culture through dialogue.
Yes, and we've been improving on that, and still are improving on that. Actually, we do have a number of ways, and everybody you see has preferences because you've got like over 100 people on the staff team. So, for example, with my whole management team, with those we communicate on Teams very, very well. So that's it's instant, it's easy, it's accessible. So Teams works really well, and we communicate regularly on that. That's great. Then when it comes to people further away from that sort of office environment, those staff who are on the floor. So we have a number of different ways that we communicate with them. If they're official messages, they get them in 2 ways. So that usually comes out via emails, but it's also on our intranet. We've got an intranet site, and everybody can go on the intranet, and it's got resources, link, training. Also, it's got news and updates, and anything that goes out via email also goes there. Then that's followed up by a text message. They get a text message that says there's a new article on the news. Click on the link and it takes you directly to that link on the intranet. So there's lots of different ways that we communicate. We communicate by text a lot. We have a system that does that, so we can text everybody, and that can be just short text update. We also have another app called VivUp, and VivUp is called High Five VivUp, and it basically what it is it means that we celebrate the achievements. So we give high fives. So we do it as the managers and so on, but they can also do it within their own teams and say, Flossie was fantastic taking Doris to the beach today. Well done. And Doris really appreciated it. And anybody can do that. So that's about celebrating good practices, people going above and beyond, and it encourages others to do the same, which is another sense of leading by example. If you see the example of another person doing something that everybody thinks is amazing, you're more likely to do something similar yourself. So lots of different ways to communicate, but one of the best ways I find personally, I am in the homes every week. I spend at least one full day in each of the homes.
All right.
That day is blocked out. I don't take any meetings or any calls or anything. I am there for the homes. I'm there for the management team, the staff team, the residents, the relatives. So that means it's quite a commitment in time, but it is enormously beneficial because I keep a fantastic relationship with the homes. And therefore, I have to guard that as one of my biggest priorities to ensure that that continues.
That's fabulous. Kevin, thank you so much. Now, is there anything that we've not covered so far that you feel you would like to mention?
I guess the only thing to say really is, when you do lead by example, you develop a culture. And if the example that you're setting is one which values people, is compassionate, is understanding, has time, then that culture will develop that has the same. And that means that, your staff will feel as though they are valued. They'll feel as though the organization and the CEO values the residents and the relatives. And that creates such a unique environment where people feel as though they are seen and heard and valued. And I don't think anything can beat that in our sector as a culture that we want to develop.
That's great. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you so much. Now, finally, people would like to get in touch with you. How can they best do that?
So to get in touch with me, they can visit me on LinkedIn. I'm always open to a new connection, or they can drop me an email. And my email is ceo@oaklandcare.co.uk. And I'd be delighted to hear from anybody.
Kevin, great. Thank you so much for being on the Care CEO Success Stories podcast.
Thank you very much, Adam. It's been great.